don't we love it? You know, there's the old saying, rubbing is racing. And I think what's going on is fantastic. It gets us fired up. It gets us passionate. And we love it. So I want to delve in a little bit tighter and have a little bit more of a look at what went on, you know, with Shane. Because he gave both these guys, Waters and Will Davison, a good old rub down at the hairpin. Now, let's have a look at the vision first. Now, it pretty well duplicates itself both times. Here's Shane. You can see Will stays up high. Shane comes in there, just gives him enough of a rub, so it just knocks his momentum around. Just a fraction, but it's enough that he can get up beside and make the move. And he does exactly the same thing. Water says, I'm going to stay up high, leaves the door wide open. Shane says, thank you very much, I'll go down into there. He probably wouldn't actually get by him on its own, but by giving that little rub, he just knocks the momentum around, gets him up far enough beside to make the move down at the other end of the straight. Very, very good. So, how does this work? Now, this is what we typically call the bump and run, right? That's what we've known as. You can't sort of do that. What does the rule say? Well, it's actually not a rule. It's actually in the Code of Driving Conduct Guidelines. That word there's what matters. It's a guideline. So our driving standards observer's got to use these rules to best effect. And the rule really that's pertinent, it's not permitted for any driver to unfairly gain advantage as a result of contact with another car. Now, it's the interpretation. Now, if you had just applied that like cement on every contact in our racing, we wouldn't be racing. So you can't. It's not that simple. And I had a really good chat to Craig Baird, our driving standards advisor this morning. Beardo does a great job of this. I support him because I reckon he's done a really good job of finding the line between the right calls and keeping the racing going. Now, he said to Shane, I tell you what, Shane, there's a line, mate. You've not just walked up and put your toes on the line. You've put your toes probably a little bit over and I'm whacking them with a hammer. Don't do that again. There's nothing left, mate. That's it. What other drivers are going to be a little bit careful about, it's no good saying, oh, I'm going to get Shane down the other end and just push him off the road because they'll be in strife. So he's saying that's the line. Now, Shane's view of all of this is, well, I can't believe the guys just leave the door open like that. Why don't they go down and shut down the apex on me so I can't get in there? That's probably a fair point. So let's have a little closer look at that. So here's an overview. Turn 4, the hairpin. Here's the two cars down here. Now, if I just turn my texter on, let's go for green. So Cam Waters blazes all the way along, does nothing to go and block him, stays right around on the wide line. Now, he does that for a reason because the drivers have all learnt staying up high is the fastest way. Now, him and Will Davison have obviously both made a calculation. By staying up high is the best chance of keeping Shane at bay. Right, but what maybe they should have thought about doing, because Shane, in this circumstance, he just gets to do that, gives them a little rub up around here somewhere that knocks their momentum around. What Shane's saying they should be doing, actually I'm going to turn it off, then turn it back on again, is come down here, grab an apex down here and shut Shane out. Back him up, slow him up. But again, I'm not going to judge what the drivers should or shouldn't be doing. They're the options and that's what's going on. Now, for me, Shane's taking a little bit of a risk. It's not a calculated risk with what he's doing, because if we take a closer look at this vision, have a look at Shane. This is Shane here. I'm going to stop there. Look at his tyre here. Now, that hits the exhaust of Will Davison's car. That's a massive risk. Why? Have a look at this. That's Shane's front tyre. I can tell you, that's a millimetre away from cutting. Well, it got cut before, didn't it? So, look at Will Davo's exhaust. That's the risk when you go and put your nose and your tyre in the middle of the corner with a lot of lock-on like that. And you don't have to go far back in our game, 2016. Just remember this. This HRT car, I think Jack Perkins was in this car here. We've got Golding in this car. Bang, he did exactly the same thing. Touched his wheel on the exhaust of the HRT car. The tyre blew, and that's 270 Ks over there. Bang, in the fence you go. So he needs to be really careful. Now, I'll summarise by saying, what's cool about this, whilst I've tried my best to explain what's going on here, I can tell you up and down that pit lane right now, there's a whole bunch of drivers in their own heads. Will they have their own interpretation of how this is going to work? They're looking very closely at the judgments that have been made. But again, I'm going to support Beardo. I reckon he's found a really nice line between keeping the racing going and what these other guys are going to do is start to give a little bit back.